Well, hello and welcome back to the Radical Dreamers. We have completed the first of multiple scenarios. Now, you may notice a couple things here. One, there is a continue thing up on the top rather than a new game, and that's what we're going to be clicking. And also the fact that I had to go back through to get to this because it doesn't save. Moving on. So if you click on continue, things will be about the same. You get to choose your name, and you're immediately launched into the story again. Now, I could read through all this again, but I've kind of decided that I'm not going to do that. And I'm just going to go ahead and get to the point where, well, right about here, I watched this kid's braid flicked back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I started to feel very sleepy indeed. I tried and failed to stifle an enormous yawn. Okay, so at this point, I want to go ahead and say, and before I knew it, I was asleep in order to get the first of the endings. Serge, oi Serge, I'm talking to you. My head jerked upward as I snapped back to consciousness. Idiot that I was, I'd managed to drift off. As I came back to my senses, I looked up to see the hulking shadow of Lynx's manor looming over us. Wakey, wakey, sleepyhead, we've got work to do. Her words had hardly reached me before she jumped onto the terrace and disappeared within. Ack, wait up, kid. Flustered, I rushed after her. Corridor stretched off to the left and right from the terrace. It seemed equally dark and chilly in both directions. All right, where's our way in? Kid's casual comments settled our nerves. Magil quietly surveyed our surroundings. Meanwhile, I found myself distracted by how cold the sweat on my forehead felt. It was only when I reached down to wipe the sweat from my brow and turned my head slightly that I happened to see it. A soft glimmer of light. At least, I thought that was what I saw. A gentle glow coming from a decorative window close to the ceiling. But as much as I strained my eyes to try and catch it again, I couldn't. Oi, Serge, you better not be sleeping on the job. We'll leave you for the guards to find. Kid and Magil were already far down the passageway. How long had I been standing there? We want to go ahead and just rush after them. It's way too early to start trying kids' patience. Corridor stretched off to the left and right from the terrace. It seemed equally dark and chilly in both directions. We want to go down to the left. We took the corridor leading from the left-hand side of the terrace, eventually arriving at an intersection with some stairs. The path to the right led down the stairs, the path to the left was a dark side passage, and the main corridor continued straight onwards. We want to go to the side passage to the left. We headed down the side passage. At the end of it, we came to an old, immaculately polished door. Let's go ahead and head inside. Kid gently pushed the door ajar and peeked into the room. The next thing I knew, she'd slipped inside. Magil and I followed. Looks like a study. The room was lit by the moonlight coming through the long, slender windows, slanting down in pale beams through the darkness. It was pretty big for a study, with an immaculate antique desk dominating the center. There were rows of bookshelves lined with thick, dusty old tomes, and the wall to the rear of the room was decorated with paintings, and shelves of vases and painted plates stood before it. They all seemed to be curios from foreign lands. You want to check the desk here. I went over to the desk and started searching the drawers. There, I found a neatly arranged set of pens, ink bottles, and other writing materials. Nothing of interest, in other words. A small portrait on the desk caught my eye. It was a picture of a young girl with a gentle smile on her lips. Who was she? That's the girl Lynx adopted. If you ask me, it wasn't because he was looking to help the needy, said Kid, peering over my shoulder. She wrinkled her nose in distaste. Not even a looker. Riddel. Magil had appeared next to me, whispering the woman's name. He stared at the portrait in astonishment. What's up, Mage? My question seemed to break the portrait's hold on him, and his head came up with a start. He quickly returned to his usual emotionless self. Nothing. I probably shouldn't have even bothered asking. He wasn't exactly the forthcoming type. Time is of the essence, and we are wasting it. Let us look elsewhere. Turning on his heel, Magil made for the door. Kid and I looked at each other in confusion. What's up with him all of a sudden? Don't ask me. Hey Mage, wait for us. We followed him out of the study. Alright, we made our way back down from the dark passageway leading from the study. Eventually we arrived back at the intersection. Some stairs led downward and the corridor branched left and right, with the right branch leading back toward the terrace. We want to go ahead and go down the stairs this time. Slowly we crept down the staircase, descending deeper into the blackness as we went. At the bottom, the path split. The way to the left continued on to the atrium that resembled a sort of plaza, while the path to the right was a winding passageway that trailed off into the darkness. We want to go to the right. We went down the stairs and took our passageway to the right. Eventually, we came across an ornate door on the right-hand side. Something smelled fresh and pleasant. Flowers. Was it coming from inside? We want to go inside. We found ourselves in a tidy, welcoming room. The knickknacks and curios dotted around the place seemed to be well loved. The stately desk and the cozy-looking bed nearby, meanwhile, suggested the room's occupant was no stranger to luxury. Is there someone there? A woman's voice. We immediately hid ourselves. The woman appeared from deeper within the room. She was lightly made up and had a gentle, unthreatening air about her. It was Lynx's daughter. Strange, I'm sure I heard someone. Luckily, she seemed not to have noticed us. I stilled my breath, watching from the darkness, and then I saw it. The shadows began to flicker and shake. It was Magil? It was. He seemed to step out of thin air. Riddel was stunned at the sudden appearance of a strange man in her room. We couldn't let her panic and call for help. I had to think of something to reassure her fast. Evening, man. We're from the local paper. Evening, ma'am. Can I call you ma'am? We're here from the Galesburg Chronicle. You've heard of us, right? I said with my most hopeful grin. I haven't, and I don't recall inviting you either. Riddel's reply came quickly. She clearly wasn't convinced. Kid twisted my ear. When are you ever going to learn to lie properly? Riddel looked at me, and Kid in turn, and then it dawned on her. What? Who are you? She stepped back, frightened. Magil eyed her compassionately and spoke in a gentle, reassuring tone I'd never heard him use before. I'm sorry that we startled you. We mean you no harm. Please remain calm. But his words had no effect. Riddel raised her voice. Thieves! Burglars! Stay away! She was about to scream for help. We had to do something. Let's knock her out. I was reaching for my knife, meaning to knock her out with the butt of the weapon when Kid stayed my hand. If she's getting knocked out, you better let me do it. You'll only wind up killing the poor girl. Riddel noticed the two of us holding knives and furtively whispering to each other, and raised her hands to her face in distraught horror. Meanwhile, a furious Magil walked briskly towards us and slapped our weapons out of our hands. What? But if you're not, then who are you? Magil's intervention had saved Riddel from an uncomfortable predicament, but it hadn't left her any less confused. He looked away, seemingly unable to bring himself to reply. What are you playing at, Mage? You trying to get us caught? Kid spoke in a low growl, staring daggers at Magil. His shoulders slumped, and he took a deep breath and turned to Riddel. Riddel, you had a best friend as a child, yes? A young boy? She stared at him, lost in thought, and then her face came alive with recognition. It can't be Gilbert? What? You know each other? Yelled Kid in surprise, despite herself. Oh, Gil, it really is you. It's been so long. Riddel tenderly grasped Magil's hand, and the moment she did, something in the shadows surrounding him changed. It was all so sudden. I've always wondered what became of you. Always worried for your sake. His voice was tender and filled with emotion. Unnerved by the sudden change in him, Kid butted in. Oi, Mage, we're here for the Frozen Flame, remember? Or is that just your nickname for this old flame of yours? The Frozen Flame, gasped Riddel. It's true. That was my goal, until I found you. This was not the Magil I knew. A sense of foreboding came over me, and I looked over at Kid. She looked back, seemingly feeling the same way. We turned to Magil again in silence. Our having met tonight is no less than destiny. Fate has brought us together once more. His words became increasingly passionate, making him almost unrecognizable. I started to feel like I might be losing my marbles. I couldn't keep up with this sudden transformation. Kid was shaking her head in disbelief, equally baffled by the scene unfolding before us. But Magil's strange behavior only escalated, testing our connection with reality even further. Ever since I was a child, I have thought only of you. He said, offering Riddel his hand. She batted it away. Wait, no, what are you doing? This is all so sudden. I promised you, Riddel. Did I not vow that one day we would be wed? Magil was trembling with emotion. Riddel averted her gaze and looked down at the floor. I wonder if maybe she didn't feel the same way. It was all so long ago. Just wait a moment, will you? She pleaded, shaking her head. Do you no longer like me? Came Magil's timid reply. That's not what I meant, Gil. It's just appearing out of nowhere and asking like that. Did our promise mean nothing to you? Riddel was clearly a little taken aback by Magil's ardor. She replied in a somewhat pained voice. You haven't changed. You never once stopped to think about how I might feel, have you? When I baked you cookies for your 5th birthday, you gave them all away. At the village fair, you wouldn't dance with me, and these seem like pretty petty things for a noblewoman to hold a grudge about. You misunderstand. I only wanted to show off what a wonderful gift you had given me, and as for the village fair, I was simply too ashamed of my dancing. Magil defended his decades-old actions as if he had been charged with a crime punishable by death. You come here unannounced with your excuses and expect me to forgive you? Now, after all these years? Riddel was clearly in turmoil. Her long eyelashes glistened with tears. Did you really think that you could just show up and start confessing your love and demanding to marry me? Is that how you think ladies like to be treated? Kid put a hand on Riddel's shoulder and turned her gaze on Magil. Look, mate, I get it. You two made a promise and you've stayed true to it all these years, but seriously, she said with a disapproving frown. She didn't need to say the rest. It was clear she thought this was no way to go about wooing one's intended. Luckily, before they could go any further, a middle-aged woman's voice drifted to us from deeper within Riddel's chambers. Lady Riddel, is something the matter? I heard a commotion and came running. Riddel's maid entered the room and the color drained from her face as she laid eyes on us. Ack, my lady! Riddel rushed to calm her handmaid before things got even more out of hand. Noella, don't panic. It's only Gilbert. You remember him, don't you? As soon as she said his name, her entire attitude changed. The look of horror on her face slowly melted into a smile, and she stepped closer to Magil as one would greet a dear old friend. Why, Master Gilbert, what a fine young figure of a man you've become. Give me strength. Kid slumped to the floor, clutching her head in her hands. Magil, meanwhile, exchanged polite pleasantries with the maid as if nothing could have been more normal. What the heck was he thinking? You're not planning on selling us out, are you? I only muttered my thoughts under my breath, but Kid heard me anyway. You better not be. Oi, Magil, what the heck do you think you're playing at? We don't have time for this, said Kid, snapping out of her brown study. The maid had barely noticed Kid until now. She took one look at her, and her face turned as white as a sheet. Who is this unseemly girl? You must forgive my rudeness, Miss Noella. Allow me to introduce my 2 colleagues, Kid and Serge, he purred without missing a beat. Oh goodness, then it's me who's been rude. I hope you can forgive me. I'm Noella, Lady Riddel's personal maidservant. Oh, nice to meet you. Kid and I bowed awkwardly, immediately cursing ourselves for playing along with this farce. I have known Master Gilbert since he was knee-high to a grasshopper. Why, I remember the time she seemed to very much enjoy filling us in on every last detail of Magil's childhood. We couldn't get a word in edgewise as she chattered on. Oh yes, they were like peas in a pod, these two. They were forever running off to play together in some secret corner or another. Why, no offense, lady, but we really don't have time to be. But Noella cut Kid dead with a look that said this next part was important. Ahem. Why, I'll never forget them coming back after making their little promise to one another in the flower garden. Yes, it was a beautiful sunny day, and summer was in full bloom, and the little dears swore to spend the rest of their lives together. With a rapt look in her eyes, Noella continued. And everyone's known ever since then that Lady Riddel's heart belongs to Master Gilbert and no other. Riddel only looked glum. Yes, Noella, because you insist on telling them, which is why I never received so much as a single offer of marriage. Magil's eyes shone with delight. Kid, who had been crossing her arms on the sidelines, had just lost her patience. She turned to the group, glaring. Listen here, you old bag of bones. I'm the Master Thief Kid, and I came here tonight to... But before she could finish, Noella had cut right back in. You came here tonight to steal off with Lady Riddel, didn't you, you rascals? Goodness, I should put you over my knee and teach you a whole lesson. Tee-hee! What? No, just shut up, you interfering old bag. I couldn't give a monkey's about your precious Lady Bloody Riddel. Now shut your trap and butt out, will ya? The two glared ferociously at one another while Magil did his best to defuse the situation. It's all right, Noella. She'll be safe with us. Oh, Master Gilbert. He turned to Kid. Come, we need to move quickly. Hang on, what? Kid's eyes met Noella's again. They'd both realized what Magil had just said. Safe with us? What do you mean, safe with us? You mean you're actually going to run off with her? Taken aback, Magil stammered. Not exactly. But his words were drowned out by the exciting yelping. An elopement! Oh, how wonderful! How romantic! I simply must let everyone know. Noelle left the room, tripping the light fantastic as she went. Magil, you conniving little... What about the frozen bloody flame? In a blind rage, Kid seized him by the collar. Riddel, too, seemed less than thrilled by this development and finally lost her temper completely. I suppose she couldn't be blamed. It was a bit unfair to hold her to a promise that she made when she was only a child. And besides, she was the lady of the manor. She'd be leaving a comfortable life behind. I looked at her and thought, let's see, she must really hate thieves, or there's no way she can leave home like that. I have absolutely no intention of leaving my home, explained Riddel defiantly. Do you want me to live like a pauper? What would father say? Fear not, my love. I have saved all the funds I need to pay for a wedding and to secure us a marital abode. As for the honeymoon, our guests will surely help with that. Magil turned to wink meaningfully at Kid and I as he uttered the word guests. He'd clearly made up his mind, but since when did we agree to get roped into this? Suddenly, sirens began to go off throughout the manor. The interfering old bag, this is her bloody doing. I know it, scowled Kid. In a daze, I asked Magil what we should do. We need to move quickly, as I said. Come. Riddel seemed more than a little relieved. Yes, you should probably be going. Next time you come, you can do so during the day, and not as a thief, but as a friend. A friend. Magil repeated the word friend under his breath, almost a groan. And then, defiantly, he rose to his full height. No, I will not give up. A clatter of footsteps came from the hallway. Quick, we need to skedaddle, said Kid. Magil picked up Riddel with little obvious effort and slung her over his shoulder. I'm taking you with me. What? Magil, you can't be serious. Kid stopped dead in her tracks. Eek! Put me down! Riddel struggled to break free. Stop that. We have to get out of here. Magil's cape fluttered as he rushed out of the room. Gilbert! Riddel's voice trailed off into the distance. So what do we do now, Kid? We get the bloody hell out of here, that's what. We just blown our cover good and proper. We'll have to try another time. We fled from the room as fast as our feet could carry us. I love the speed. Wherever we went, the manor's monstrous custodians tried to thwart us, but Magil blazed right through them, knocking them aside like they were nothing. And eventually we managed to escape, though every muscle in my body ached with the exertion. For a moment, the only sound in the quiet of the forest was our ragged breathing, and then the silence was shattered by an enormous explosion. We looked up to see fireworks? I gazed at them in wonder. Wait, what's that? Kid could see something else. A row of figures were waving from one of the manor's balconies. I strained my ears and realized they were cheering, too. Congratulations, Lady Riddel. May you be happy together forever. Invite us to your housewarming party when you're settled in. And then Kid pointed to the roof of the manor, a look of horror on her face. There he stood, Lynx himself, the lord of the manor, and he was crying. He's the fathers of the brides blumbling like a bloody baby. We were all stupefied. Riddel, who'd been crying the entire time herself, gently lifted her head. Why did you have to cause such a scene? I'm sorry, Riddel. I may have overdone things a little. With a flick of his wrist, Magil procured a handkerchief and gently dried the tears from her cheeks. Oh, Gil, you haven't changed a bit, she giggled through the sniffles. A warm light began to appear on the horizon. Looks like the night's finally over, sighed Kid, and with no frozen flame to show for our troubles. Magil, meanwhile, pointed to the rising sun. Look, Riddel, gaze with me upon the dawn of our new life together. Love, Folly, Elopement. Alright, that's fine, I think. And so ends another tale. Perhaps one day I'll see Kid, Magil, and Riddel again. One day. Somewhere at another time, in another world. Perhaps none of us will even realize it. But that's a story for another day. For now, I must put down my pen. I closed my grandfather's diary. And then from downstairs, I heard my mother calling. Did you hear me? Your friend's here. Nimble footsteps charged up the stairs. The door flew open. In tumbled a young girl, a girl who seemed somehow familiar. Hey Serge, it's a beautiful day for adventuring. I found a rundown old manor off in the woods to the north. You want to go exploring? Come on, put the book down and let's get out there. I don't even know what to do with any of this.